Still love me too. Hi everyone, Casey and Jojo Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Jeff Rosenstock album. We cool?
No, we not cool, cause you're ripping me off, you're copying me, buddy.
How am I copying you?
You got my hair, you got my skin, you got my face, you're just ripping me off.
Well, how can I be a copy of you when you're just a figment of my imagination? Oh my God, I was just making him up the whole time.
Hey look, I found a tortilla.
Yo, give me a piece.
No, get your own.
Jeff Rosenstock is a singer-songwriter, once singer and guitarist for the band Bomb the Music Industry. The punk band formed in the mid-2000s, disbanded last year. Personally, I never really got that deep into them. Their bright, uppity, melodic, poppy approach to punk never really sat that well with me, but I did find their occasionally downtrodden and snarky lyrics pretty admirable. And coming off that Bomb the Music Industry demise, Jeff is just sort of going back into a solo direction because it's been a little while since he released music in some of his other side projects. And while he has gone solo once before with the record I Look Like Shit, I think he's really doing it on another level on this new release here. But aside from pop punk on this record, you can also expect whiffs of indie rock and Weezer-esque power pop, some alt country, some folk music. There's definitely some undertones of Andrew Jackson Jihad on this album, like Knife Man era Andrew Jackson Jihad. As some of you may know, that band actually made their Side One Dummy debut not too long ago, but I didn't care for that record all that much because I think Andrew Jackson's rough around the edges quirks were part of what made that band so interesting. Whereas on the flip side with Bomb the Music Industry, as well as Jeff Rosenstock's solo stuff, I've always thought maybe they were just too rough for my taste. Maybe they needed to be cleaned up a little bit, primped and synced up. And We Cool does in fact feature a cleaner, brighter, punchier recording than Jeff's solo stuff in most Bomb the Music Industry releases, in my opinion. The drums, the guitars are all tightly assembled on this album and complemented very well with some synths and some glockenspiel and some piano and some brass. Even though you're getting that throttling punk energy, you may be getting layers of instrumentation riding along that same tempo, just making the song not only sound exciting and just blood pumping, but epic. And atop all of this are Jeff Rosenstock's very lively vocals and some pretty sharp lyrics too. Even though Jeff on this album is deep into his 30s, on much of this record he is reflecting on emotions I think most people have in their 20s when they find themselves at a crossroads where they just don't know what to do with their lives. Is Jeff going back into the past and remembering these feelings, or is he having these feelings now because of the demise of Bomb the Music Industry and he's not really sure where his own music career is going? There are certainly some present day reflections found on this record, like with the introductory track where it seems that Jeff is talking about friends of his or just people that he knows getting established, buying homes, having families. Meanwhile, he doesn't have to get up, he doesn't have a kid, or he's just kind of bumming around. And this is something that I think gives him freedom and gives him excitement and leads him on all sorts of adventures that he enjoys, but he finds like depression in this too, especially with tracks like NAUSEA, which is a really clumsily played piano rock track, but it's still very awesome. It's endearingly clumsy. And on this track, we see Jeff avoiding loved ones and avoiding family conversations with these people and diving instead into alcohol because he's sick and tired of talking about and thinking about what he's going to do with his life. These very sad feelings are amplified on the next track, Beers Alone Again, which is a bit of alt country, or on the song Polar Bear or Africa, where Jeff has this really killer refrain on this track where he says that I'm gonna die and you're gonna forget my name, which I think is also reflected in the song Hall of Fame too. This is a pretty morbid album overall. Jeff may see some lows on this record, he may see some successful highs, but he doesn't even seem to enjoy those because he sort of sees death as this great equalizer that knocks all of us down. But these sentiments are balanced out with incredibly energetic guitars and epic choruses and righteous guitar solos. Many of the tracks on this album are super anthemic, and if you were to strip the lyrics out of the equation, you could even call the music upbeat. And a lot of the songs flow into one another really well. I don't think Jeff was trying to write a story or outright create a concept album, but it certainly feels like that with how seamless some of the music is from track to track, and given that Jeff centers around a lot of the same emotions and lyrical themes on this 30-minute record. Jeff is not in his 50s right now, but still this album kind of feels like a midlife crisis record if the life expectancy today was 60. With a lot of personality and emotion, conviction, humor, Jeff tackles reflections on death and expectations, ambitions, the game of life. There are a few lulls in the track listing here, like with the song Novelty Sweater, which sounds just pulled straight out of the Weezer playbook, not really seeing what Jeff is doing for this sound other than just kind of copying it for this track here, even though the tune is okay. And the song All Blissed Out too, which sees Jeff and his acoustic guitar sort of drenched in reverb, thrown in the distance, and it's just difficult to connect with the song right up until the very end where the instrumentation just explodes. I think the only major issue that some people might have with this record is that Jeff's vocals are a little off-kilter, yelpy, not for everybody, and he is working with a pretty straightforward pop-punk sound, which isn't anything entirely new. It's a stage we're all very familiar with, but on top of this stage, I think Jeff gives a very smart, elaborate performance. For me, this record is a fun, catchy, but also comprehensive take on those formative, but also embarrassing moments in our lives where we just don't know what direction to move in. So instead, some of us refuse to do anything or just refuse to grow up. This record hits quick, but it says a lot, and musically, I think it's really dense too. I'm feeling a decent to strong 8 on this thing.
Transition. If you've given the album a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What should Anthony review next? What am I doing on this channel and not on ARTV? That's pretty much it. ARTV, shameless self-promotion, the needle drop, forever.